I remember the exact moment I promised myself never again. I was lying on a thin mattress on the floor, the ceiling leaking, a cold wind blowing through the cracked window. I had exactly $5 in my pocket and a mountain of excuses in my head. All my life, I blamed everyone else. My parents for being poor, my boss for paying me too little, the government for making it hard. But that night, lying there, I heard a voice in my mind louder than my complaints. It was Napoleon Hill. Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve. I grabbed my phone, opened my notes app, and wrote 3 lines. No more blame, no more excuses. I am responsible. It felt fake at first. How could I be responsible for being broke? But deep down, I knew it was true. I was the only common factor in all my failures. The next morning, I did what I'd never done before. I searched for answers, not sympathy. I found Hill's Think and Grow Rich online and read the first chapter twice. It didn't promise money falling from the sky. It promised a new way of thinking, the power to decide, to act, to persist. I realized I didn't need a miracle. I needed a plan. I made a list of everything I wanted: pay off my debts, save my first $10,000, build a skill that no recession could kill. Every night after my shift, I'd read 1 page, then write down 1 action for the next day. It was slow. Some days I failed. Some days I was so tired I fell asleep with the book on my chest. But every day, my mind changed a little more, and that was enough. Because Hill taught me, strength and growth come only through continuous effort and struggle. Fear was my shadow for years. I feared rejection, embarrassment, losing what little I had. I feared that if I failed, people would laugh, and worse, I'd prove I was worthless. But Hill called fear the greatest enemy of success. He wrote, "Fears are nothing more than a state of mind." So I tested this. I did what terrified me. I asked for a raise. I pitched my side project to a stranger. I called someone 10 steps ahead of me for advice. Did they reject me? Yes. Did I survive? Also yes. Every time fear tried to hold me down, I learned to thank it, because fear showed me where my next level was. Hill also wrote about the mastermind. I had no rich friends, so I found some. Online forums, local meetups, free webinars. I sat quietly at first, ashamed of how little I knew, but I stayed. I listened. I asked questions, and soon, people started treating me differently. Not like the broke guy, but like someone who wanted more. Now I wake up different. I don't wait for payday. I make every day pay me. Napoleon Hill showed me that real wealth is not a salary, it's assets. So I built them, piece by piece. My first asset was my skill, sales. Then a small side hustle, then a rental, then an online product that sells while I sleep. I made rules for my money.
When I saved my first $10,000, I was tempted to spend it all. A better car, new clothes, a short vacation. But I heard Napoleon Hill's voice in my mind. If you do not conquer self, you will be conquered by self. So I fought my old habits. Instead of spending it, I invested it in 2 places: my mind and my first asset. I bought books, courses, and a mentor session I couldn't really afford, but couldn't afford to skip either. I took $7,000 and put it down on a small rental unit. It wasn't glamorous. It was an old, run-down studio. But it paid me back every month, while my friends spent their money at bars and restaurants. That first $10,000 turned into $50,000 over the years. Not overnight, but because I stuck to Hill's rule. The way of success is the way of continuous pursuit of knowledge. That lesson alone made me realize the money I keep is worthless until I make it move. Money sleeping in my pocket does nothing. Money at work brings friends home. One thing Hill taught me that most people ignore: opinions are the cheapest commodities on earth. Everyone has advice, but most people's advice is worthless. I looked around. My broke uncle, my negative coworker, my complaining neighbor. They all had an opinion on why my ideas wouldn't work. They laughed when I skipped parties to read or work late. They told me real success is luck, that rich people just get lucky. One night I asked myself, why am I listening to people who don't have what I want? So I stopped. I cut them off, kindly but firmly. I stopped sharing my goals with dream killers. I found people who lifted me up, my own mastermind group. We shared wins, failures, strategies. When I felt like quitting, they reminded me of who I said I wanted to be. When I blocked out the noise, my progress doubled. My mind was clearer. My energy wasn't wasted explaining myself to people who would never understand. I still love my old friends and family, but when it comes to my future, I listen only to those who've walked the path I'm walking. Today, I live by a few simple rules that guarantee I'll never be broke again. They're not magic, they're discipline. Rule 1. Pay myself first. Before I spend $1, I invest $1. Rule 2. Money must grow. If it can't multiply, I don't park it there. Rule 3. Master my mind daily. I read, I learn, I test my beliefs. I remind myself what Hill said. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Rule 4. Teach what I know. I share this with my kids. I tell them, money is a tool, not a trophy. Rule 5. Stay grateful, but hungry. I celebrate how far I've come, but I never settle. I know if I stop growing, I start dying. These rules built my freedom. They're my shield against ever going back to the life I escaped. If you're reading this, they say failure is the end. But Napoleon Hill taught me that failure is never final, unless you quit. I learned this lesson the hardest way possible. Let me take you back. A few years ago, I thought I had it all figured out. I'd saved up $20,000. I decided to go big, open a small cafe with a friend. We signed a lease, renovated the place, painted the walls our favorite colors. I imagined the line of happy customers, the smell of fresh coffee, the sound of cash flowing in. But reality hit me fast. We opened in winter, hardly anyone came. Rent was due, bills piled up. My partner lost interest. I worked 16-hour days trying to save it, but the debts got heavier. One night, sitting alone at a corner table, I realized I was broke again. Worse, I owed money I didn't have. For weeks, I hated myself. How could I be so stupid? Friends said, I told you so. My family said, get a safe job. My mind said, you failed. But Napoleon Hill whispered something else. Every adversity, every failure, every heartache carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. I asked myself, what is the seed here? I had no money left, but I had knowledge. I now knew what not to do. Don't trust a partner blindly. Don't open a seasonal business without a plan. Don't spend every dollar without a cushion. I closed the cafe. I faced every debt. I called my creditors, arranged payments, took extra shifts. I swallowed my pride and moved back to a tiny apartment. But I kept studying. I read Think and Grow Rich again, this time with real hunger. Hill wrote, temporary defeat should mean only one thing, the certain knowledge that there is something wrong with your plan. So I built a better plan. I asked better questions. What works in every season? What earns while I sleep? How can I test small before going big? This is how I discovered digital products. Things that cost little to create, can be sold forever, and didn't depend on weather or a lease. I wrote my first small ebook, just 20 pages of what I knew. I uploaded it online. The first month I made $50, the next month $200. By month 6, that tiny book made me more than my failed cafe ever did. Failure taught me how to fail small and fail forward. Hill said, opportunity often comes disguised in the form of misfortune or temporary defeat. That one line changed how I see every problem now. If you're listening to me now, I want you to remember this. Failure is not your enemy. It's your instructor. It hurts, but so do growing muscles in the gym. So does learning to walk after you fall. If you hide from failure, you hide from growth. Today, when something goes wrong, I ask, what is this trying to teach me? I don't always find the answer right away, but I trust it. If there's one thing Napoleon Hill drilled into my head, it's this. Never depend on one source for your security. He didn't say it exactly like that, but he showed it through every story in Think and Grow Rich. The wealthiest men of his time, from Carnegie to Ford, never relied on a single paycheck. They built streams, rivers, that fed their fortunes while they slept. When I was younger, I did what everyone does. I sold my time. One job, one boss, one paycheck. If that paycheck stopped, I was ruined. And guess what? It did. Twice. Once when my company downsized, once when the pandemic hit. Each time, I felt like the floor had vanished under my feet. After the second time, I swore, never again. I went back to Hill's principles. He wrote, "Riches do not respond to wishes. They respond only to definite plans, backed by definite desires, through constant persistence." I asked myself, what is my definite plan? It was clear. I needed income streams that couldn't be shut down by one man's decision. I needed money that didn't care if the world closed its doors. So I started small. My first side hustle wasn't glamorous. I flipped used phones. I'd buy them broken, fix them with YouTube tutorials, resell them for a tiny profit. I made an extra $100, then $300. It was a drip, but it was my drip. Then I added another. I turned my hobby, writing, into cash. I wrote blog posts for busy entrepreneurs. $50 here, $100 there. Slowly, I saved enough to test my bigger idea. An online course teaching exactly how I fixed phones. Did it get rich overnight? No. But every time someone bought that course, I made money while eating dinner, while playing with my kids, while I slept. For the first time, I felt what Hill called passive income. I didn't stop there. I reinvested every dollar. I studied the real estate market. I saved for a down payment and bought a tiny apartment to rent out. I messed up plenty, nightmare tenants, repairs I didn't expect, but I learned. I turned one unit into two into four. I also started investing in dividend-paying stocks. Small at first, I didn't know much. I read, watched videos, joined investor groups. I made mistakes, but the trick was simple. Keep feeding the streams. Hill says, "An educated man is not one who has an abundance of general or specialized knowledge. An educated man is one who has so developed the faculties of his mind that he may acquire anything he wants." I wanted freedom, so I educated myself daily. 1 hour of reading became my non-negotiable. I learned about tax benefits, about asset protection, about how rich people protect their wealth from taxes, inflation, and even lawsuits. Some nights I stayed up until 3 a.m. figuring out how my money could earn me more money. It was exhausting, but I'd rather lose sleep building wealth than lose sleep worrying about rent. Slowly, my life changed. My main job became just one of many rivers feeding my family. I could breathe. If my boss fired me tomorrow, I'd be okay. That feeling, that security, is priceless. When my old friends heard about my new streams, some said, "Must be nice." But it's not nice, it's necessary. Depending on one job is gambling with your entire future. I won't gamble with my kids' food. Today, I teach my children the same lesson. We play a game every month. How many streams can you build? My son started selling custom stickers to his classmates. My daughter sells cupcakes. They're young, but they're learning the truth schools don't teach. One paycheck is a trap. Many streams are freedom. Here's what I know now. Money loves movement. When you hold it tight in one spot, it withers under inflation. When you give it channels, when you flow it through investments, businesses, and ideas, it multiplies. Some streams will dry up. I've had failed products, tenants who didn't pay, investments that flopped. That's okay. When you have 5 streams and one fails, you're fine. But if you have only one and it fails, you're drowning. That's why I build new ones every year. I test ideas constantly. Some work, some don't, but the habit keeps my mind sharp. Hill called this organized planning. Planning alone means nothing. Planning with daily action, that's unstoppable. If you're listening to this and only have one income, start today. Don't wait for the perfect idea. Start messy, start small. Flip something, teach something, rent something. Don't think you need permission. You already have it. Hill said, "Do not wait. The time will never be just right. The time is now. Build one stream, then two, then five. You'll wake up one day and realize you're no longer a slave to one boss, one paycheck, one disaster. You're free.